Hi, welcome to Stand With Us. I'm Roz Rothstein, CEO and co-founder of an organization that helps people around the world educate their friends and communities about Israel. The conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis can be very confusing, particularly when there are anti-Israel groups pushing out propaganda and misinformation around the world. Stand With Us works hard to set the record straight. We work on campuses around the world, and here today we have three people who have some very disturbing stories about their experiences on college campuses in America. So we know that there's a conventional war that Israel's been fighting with bullets and bombs, but what we don't realize is that there's also a PR war, a war for hearts and minds that impacts future leaders and voters. And we need to be mindful of that because it's going on right here on our college campuses. And today we're going to talk to our three guests about their own personal experiences on college campuses, and they have some rather disturbing stories. The theme for today is the new anti-Semitism on college campuses. So welcome. We're going to begin with Maya. Maya Rozov graduated UC Irvine, the infamous UC Irvine that we hear so much about. And I know that you didn't go to school planning to be a warrior for the state of Israel, but what happened when you got there, and what did you see, and how did it affect you?
Absolutely did not go to be a warrior. I went because UC Irvine is just considered to be a great school for a great education. So I went. I was involved in student government and, just fun student clubs of the sort. And until one day I was walking along campus and I see this huge wall with a big bloody Israeli flag waving over it. And I went up closer to take a closer look, and there was just horrific images of, bloody dead people, sayings that said Zionism equals Nazism. And I was blown away and horrified. I ran back to my dorm room and cried, called my dad and said, "Dad, is there something about Israel that I don't know, that I didn't hear about," something like that. Especially because my family is Israeli and Israel has been such a big part of my life for so long that it was just it didn't add up. And I realized that it was actually the first time that I had come into contact with anti-Semitism. There was that wall that was put on every year by the Muslim Student Union, along with speakers like Malik Ali, who would say things like, "Y'all are the new Nazis," and just would spew hatred.
And he was talking about the Jewish students
on
campus?
The Jewish students on campus, yes.
Yeah.
There were die-ins. There was just any form of hatred that was against Jews and Israel was really, there was just so much on our campus.
Wow. Maya, can we go back for a minute to Malik Ali? Because I know we have some footage with us here, and we'd like to share that with our audience now.
Great.
Do you believe, Malik Ali, being brought here year after year, that Hamas, the terrorist group, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, do you believe that they are terrorist groups? Do you support Hamas?
Yes.
Do you support Hezbollah?
Yes.
Do you support jihad on this campus?
As long as it's in the form of speaking truth to power, yes. And the reason why I said do not sit down, that it's not a good idea to sit down with Zionists, is because when you sit down with Zionists for cookies and cake and talk about issues, that kind of thing, right? It gives the impression that Zionism is like, it's okay. Now, you Jews, in all due respect, you wouldn't sit down with Nazis for tea and cake. No, you wouldn't. If a Nazi came up to you and said, look, we're the Third Reich. You're Jews. Let's sit down for tea and crumpets. You would say, get out of here. I'm a Jew. I ain't sitting down with no Nazi for tea and crumpets. Y'all the new Nazis. So we're saying, we ain't sitting down with y'all for tea and crumpets.
Unbelievable. Really, that you went through that. I don't even imagine how that made you feel on campus.
even watching it right now, I just feel my blood pressure rising again. It was, I mean, I saw him more times than I would like to say, but every single time it makes you feel so uncomfortable. As a Jewish student on campus, I'm here to learn. You know, I was a poli-sci major. I didn't come to feel uncomfortable as a Jewish student on my campus. I didn't come to, you know, to just feel all of this hatred. It was really horrible. And so I joined some friends, and we became a part of the Anteaters for Israel, which was the pro-Israel movement on our campus. And we did everything that we could in order to show the other side of the story, Israel's side of the story, through all kinds of different events and speakers and pamphlets and just anything that we could in order to educate people, because in our minds, it was scary if only this big wall with a bloody flag in Malik Ali, if that's the only thing that people are hearing about Israel, that's scary. We wanted to make sure that people have two sides of the story so that they can make an educated decision about Israel and the conflict.
Because we realize that a lot of students go to school and they don't have any information about Israel at all. So if this is the only information they see, it's pretty problematic.
Absolutely.
And stepping into the shoes of your parents, I cannot imagine what it must be like for them to hear these stories from you. You send your kid to college campus thinking they're going to be safe and secure and feel emotionally safe, and then they're confronted with this.
Right.
And what you need to also tell our audience is some of the other speakers that were brought to campus, like Norman Finkelstein and who else?
The Epstein, I mean, the list goes on, and each one's, you know, would talk about Israel, and really there was just a lot of hatred that was brought from these speakers, and they would just talk about lies and half-truths, and it was a very uncomfortable situation.
So you mentioned before to me, before we started the show, that you felt you needed to fight on campus, which is an interesting, you know, you had to fight for the truth on campus. It's an interesting phrase. How did that translate emotionally for you?
The reason that I felt that I had to fight was because I felt like I was fighting for myself, for my voice to be heard, for my people, for my country, because we were being put down in a way, and I felt that the only way to do something about it, that I didn't feel this way anymore, is to speak up and to involve other people and teach them about, you know, the positive things, and just combat this hatred, really.
So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more on Maya's story. Welcome back to Stand With Us. We've been talking with Maya Rozov, who's a recent graduate from UC Irvine, and she's been telling us what she saw on college campus and also how it affected her and what she did about it. So I wanted to ask you a question about your administration. Did they help you? Did they do anything for you to help you with this?
So behind the scenes, we had a good relationship with administration. They would talk to us. We would, you know, we could come and talk to them about everything. But for some reason, it didn't translate when it came down to, you know, when organizations like the Muslim Student Union would do anti-Semitic things or spew hatred. There weren't really consequences for their actions, for, you know, in order for them to stop. The administration wasn't strong in making it clear this is not okay, you know, and it was unfortunate.
So it was unfortunate, and I guess that's the reason why they really pushed out so much anti-Semitism during the years that you were there. I know that because I was there working with you, and I know that because you use Stand With Us materials and guidance. So, but do you have any hope for that administration? Let's talk about what happened with Michael Oren, because that was sort of a highlight in the last year of UC Irvine activities. What exactly happened in February last year?
So, as you know, I started working for Stand With Us because when I graduated, I got so much help from Stand With Us as a student. I I wanted to be able to give back to students and communities like you helped me. So I started working at Stand With Us. We made a fun trip down to Irvine to go hear Ambassador Michael Oren speak. And I was appalled, despite all of the horrible things that I'd already seen on campus. They just topped it. So Michael Oren came to give a speech, for something that would have taken him maybe 30 minutes. And instead of 30 minutes, it took him an hour and a half because he was interrupted 11 times. Every single time he tried to speak and open his mouth, he was interrupted by somebody screaming at him. And, it was shocking because he came there to talk and to have dialogue, and I came there so that I could hear what he had to say. And instead, neither one of those things were happening. It was his will to speak and my ability to hear were just being completely shut down.
So the free speech of him being able to express himself and your freedom of being able to be an audience participant listening to him was cut.
Completely. And it was hundreds and hundreds of people that were there. It wasn't just me. It was hundreds of people that just couldn't hear him. And the thing that blew my mind even more so is that after the fact, the students, the 11 students who had interrupted him, were claiming that their right to free speech was somehow being infringed upon. And I still can't wrap my head around it because I was sitting behind a girl who was ferociously texting and organizing this entire thing to the students who had pieces of paper, who were reading them off as they were screaming at Michael Oren. And I don't understand how their right to free speech was being stopped because they were the ones stopping it.
So I think you're bringing up a very important point, and that is that it was orchestrated, it was coordinated, and one of their defenses was that each one was acting independently, which was clearly not the case. We were sitting behind the woman that was orchestrating and texting, and you stand up now and you stand up next. But let's go back to the whole incident, because fortunately, Stand With Us was there filming, and we have a pretty good tape to show our audience. So I'd like to cut to that now and let everybody see exactly what happened that day.
It is a source of frustration that as a person who spent much of his life speaking Hebrew...
Michael Oren, propagating murder is not an expression of free speech. That violates a number of rules that we have at the university. Having one person do it is fine. Get it out of your system. But we're going to be polite and courteous to our guests.
We have an opportunity here to exchange ideas. You have an opportunity to hear a different perspective. This is why you have come to this campus as students. You haven't come to this campus to hear one idea. You've come to hear a multiplicity of ideas. It's a humble suggestion. It is one of the inestimable values of education in this country, that you have that opportunity. Don't squander the opportunity.
Israel,
You know him.
guilty of 101 Let the man speak!
I knew that the origins of that relationship went very, very far back, close to 400 years to the first... I know that you're going to think this is strange, but I really wish they had stayed.
Wow, it sort of takes us back to that day. Both of us were there, so I know that it was really hard for you. I remember that you cried.
Yeah, it was very hard because you know, after years, the years that I was there, I was just fighting, and all I wanted was equality, fairness, you know. I want to talk, you want to talk. The whole point of Michael Oren coming to speak is to have, again, dialogue. You know, he even said, I wanted these people to stay so that they could ask me questions. Ask me your hardest question at the end and I'll answer you. They didn't even hear, from the first minute they started screaming at him, so they didn't even hear what he had to say. Maybe he had something to say that they could have agreed with, you know, and I just don't understand.
I think it's very interesting that the Jewish students, or the pro-Israel student community, which was more than just the Jewish students on campus, that they always let the other side speak. So when Malik Ali comes to campus, he's able to speak, and then there's a dialogue, there are questions, there's Q&A. Why is it that you think they feel the need to shut down everybody else's speech that they disagree with?
My answer would be, I don't think that they're open to dialogue. Like you said, there were many, many, many speakers who I would have loved to scream at and say to stop talking, I don't agree with you, whatever it is, but I didn't. I would wait until the end. I would hear him or her out, and I would wait and have a conversation with them at the end afterwards, or ask them a question, something. Because I wanted dialogue, and I don't want the situation to continue like this in Irvine or in Israel or wherever it is. I think that we need to come to some kind of discussion at least.
Now, we called their behavior uncivilized, but I think what you're pointing out is that even if you disagree, you were trying to be civilized and listen as a audience member. So we're going to take another break now, but we will be back for more of UC Irvine. Welcome back. We are speaking with Maya Rozoff about her experiences at UC Irvine. And I had a question about all that you've told us. After Ambassador Michael Oren tried so hard to speak at UC Irvine, did the administration finally do anything?
Yes, they did. They put the students on probation, actually the entire Muslim Student Union on probation, so they couldn't do any events for a quarter. And the 11 who were the ones who were shouting down Michael Oren are now being tried by the Orange County District Attorney.
Wow. I know they're fighting. They don't want to be tried, and they're getting lots of letters sent to the DA, but I think they will be tried. It looks like they will be tried. And who knows, it might set an example for other students not to push out that level of hate speech on a college campus. So now let's speak with Lihi Benesti, who is still at school at Hampshire, correct?
Yes. I'm entering my 4th year at Hampshire College.
You're entering your 4th year. And you have a very special kind of story, because I know you've told me off camera that you are concerned about going back to school. So could you back us up and tell us exactly what happened at Hampshire that makes you so fearful about going back to school?
So I think that my only crime was that I attended a pro-Israel event off campus and was identified by protesters of the event. This event was at UMass Amherst, and I was really active within the pro-Israel community and Jewish community off campus, and attended that event, which was heavily protested by Hampshire students and faculty.
Why was it being so protested? What was the event?
It was an IDF soldier that came to speak about his experience serving.
So it was an Israeli soldier that came to speak at the event. And so what exactly, so they were protesting outside, and you were the only Hampshire student that showed up?
They were actually protesting inside the event. They came in and silently protested. I was the only Hampshire student that was there in support of the event.
And so you got labeled.
I was definitely identified. And the week following the event, I was verbally harassed, and I was even physically pushed. I was called things like racist and Zionist pig and several other very disrespectful and hurtful names.
So that's amazing. Now, it's amazing because Hampshire is supposed to be such a liberal school that you would think that they would be open to all kinds of dialogue, but here we see that no, only a kind of dialogue is allowed. And if you think differently from the packaged dialogue you're allowed to speak about, I guess you will be punished.
Definitely. I think that Hampshire has become a very hostile environment for pro-Israel students.
What a shame. And now you say a hostile environment. Can you open that up a little bit and tell us why it's a hostile environment?
Well, so for that week, I was verbally harassed, I was physically pushed, as well as I got a death threat via email.
A death threat. So tell us about that. Tell us what the death threat said.
So it was sent to my Hampshire account, which only the Hampshire community have access to. And it said, "Make the world a better place and die slow."
Okay, so what, did you get that at night?
I got it in the morning right after taking my final off campus.
And then I'm sure that what were your steps? What did you do after that?
I immediately went to the Dean of Students and I met with one of the deans, and she brought in public safety, and they did start getting some of the administration involved. I did not feel physically or emotionally safe on campus, and I do think that they did try and help, but the bottom line is that I don't feel safe on campus. I don't want to go back to campus.
I think they tried to help sort of after the fact. It seems that there's a bubbling up of a hostile campus environment, unfortunately for Hampshire, and then trying to help when it's at that level is a pretty difficult thing to do.
Right.
So maybe the administration meant well now, but maybe 3-4 years ago, or whenever this thing began to get this hostile, maybe they should have taken steps then.
No, definitely. This is not the first time it's happened. I've had friends that have gotten their pro-Israel stickers ripped off their car and Israeli maps and flags ripped off their wall.
So the message is that you need to tread lightly when you discuss Israel on campus. Is that the message?
Definitely.
I mean, can you even discuss it at all?
Without it being a very hostile and uncomfortable environment, no.
So it's the norm. It's a conformity issue that you're not allowed to speak about how you feel about Israel. If you feel positive about Israel at Hampshire, that's not going to be acceptable.
Right.
Right?
Definitely.
Am I
It's
over-speaking this?
No, it's very uncomfortable to be a Zionist student at Hampshire.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is that on the campus there may be students who feel like you do, but they're not very vocal.
For the most part, no.
What are you going to do next year? Are you nervous about going back? Are you going back?
As of right now, I'm not going back for the fall. I'll be entering my senior year, and I'm going to be continuing to work with StandWithUs and working on my senior project. I have an agreement with the college so that I'm not going back for the fall. I don't know about the spring as of right now.
So we're speaking today with Leahy, who is telling us about her very disturbing experience on Hampshire College campus, and we'll be right back.